So a thing happened on my way home from having lunch with a buddy. Dang it. Truck has almost 300,000 miles on it. I think it finally caught up with me. Anyway, have a pretty major coolant leak. Pulled up to a stoplight and I could just see a little bit of mist kind of coming out from underneath the hood. Smell that sweet, the steam that comes from coolant kind of boiling off. You know exactly what I'm talking about. It's just kind of a sweet taste in your mouth from breathing those fumes, vapors, whatever you want to call it. Probably don't want to breathe a whole bunch of that, but you know exactly what that taste is if you've ever tasted it. I popped the hood. It doesn't appear to be something simple, like a hose split or something like that. It looks like it's coming from somewhere on the front side of the engine, so it's either my water pump, the seal around my water pump, or it's a little bit higher, kind of back behind my air conditioner condenser. It could possibly be thermostat housing or the gasket. It could potentially be the hose where it goes down in and connects right there. I'm gonna get the hose, spray everything off because it's just completely nasty up under there, and then start digging a little deeper, see if I can figure out exactly what's going on. 99 Dodge Ram, about 300,000 miles on the 5.9 liter engine that's in it. Dang it. But let's get busy and see if we can figure out what this is. So after looking a little closer, I've determined that the very first place I'm going to start is with hoses, because I don't have to crack into the engine in order to figure out if that thing is a problem, and with a visual inspection you can usually tell there's something wrong with the hose. So the hose that I'm concerned about is, I don't know if it's the return line or the feed line for the heater core. So the water pump is right down here behind the serpentine belt. This hose comes out of it. This one's accessible. That's not where the noise was coming from. It was coming from back behind my air conditioner condenser unit. Turn line, or the other hose for that heater core, is this guy here. It goes down and comes right behind the AC condenser. That's where I'm going to start. Well, I've got to take off the serpentine belt, loosen the bolts for the air conditioner condenser, and just kind of pull that off to the side so that I can expose that hose connection. But I have to be careful because I don't want to crack into any of the coolant lines. That would be a bad time. Let me get that far with it and we'll see what we're dealing with. So with the AC condenser pulled out of the way, and again, you can do a job like this without disconnecting your coolant lines. You definitely don't want to crack those open. You'll release all of your Freon coolant, whatever that stuff's called, R134.728 stuff. Anyway, what I can see from here is there's a hose clamp right there, and there's a hose clamp right there, and I'm pretty sure that that's where my problem is there's a little hose that goes between those two things. That's the water pump feeding into the intake manifold. In order to get to that, I've got to take off this entire bracket. That bracket comes clear up to here. It holds the alternator in place. It goes behind pulleys. There's bolts I've got to get out that are behind that pulley right there. So I've got my work cut out just to expose that and confirm my diagnose. I'll put you back on a time lapse and we'll pick this back up when I get that piece out of there. Oh my gosh, that took some doing. Had to take the alternator clear off as well. I had to take off that one pulley that had a bolt behind it as well. I got this bungee corded up out of the way. I'm going to show you one more problem I've got with the alternator as well before I get this all put back together. While I have this taken apart, we're going to solve that problem too. But the bracket is now loose. Pull this guy out of the way. Hopefully it'll come right out. And we'll see. Oh, there we go. Oh, all kinds of fun stuff going on under there. It's bleeding! That's the least of my worries. When metal starts bleeding. Oh, I can already see the problem here. I'm gonna point with this little screwdriver. See the screwdriver? Right there is my problem. Huge split in that hose, and it's just a tiny little guy. But that thing is completely bubbled up. That must hold quite a bit of pressure. So I gotta go try to figure out what that little piece of hose is called and replace it. It looks like there's actually a part number or something on that, a label of some sort. So maybe I'll take it off and take it with me to the store. That's a good idea. I'm glad you thought of it. But look at all this nasty under here. Oh my goodness. Yummy. Let's scrape some of that crap off of there so that we can tell if it's leaking again when we get this thing put back together and fired up. Alright, got the old part out. And you can see, of course, I split it kind of wide open trying to get it out of there. It's kind of at a funky angle. It does have a part number label on it, but I can't read that. So we'll head over to talk to my buddy Kenny at O'Reilly's, see if he can hook a guy up. But it looks like it's been a slow leak for a little while. Here's hoping we resolve that. I do have a steering leak as well that I have not been able to figure out. Of course, I haven't pulled anything apart to see if it's just a seal kit or something. That would be easy enough, but I just haven't had the time or energy to do that part. I'd rather do the fun stuff, you know, fix up the exterior, replace the parts that I've already bought, you know, stuff like that. Alright, this is my buddy Kenny. He's the store manager here at O'Reilly's. He wears a mask because he's a superhero.
Every day?
He's gonna. Well, so open that sucker up and let's see what we got. Yeah, check that out. I don't think it's supposed to be bubbled like that. And it's obviously not supposed to be split open. I bled out in the Lowe's parking lot. All my coolant.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
So I towed the truck home. But yeah, let's hook me up. And you know, I'd much rather be fixing the truck up instead of fixing it.
At least you're not fixing the Lowe's parking lot.
Yeah, true. That'd be way worse.
What truck is this on?
This is a 99 Dodge Ram. The 1500 Sport with the 5.9 engine.
Which hose is this?
This is from the water pump to the intake manifold. It is a tiny little guy.
Hey, that's good.
Nice.
I think it's supposed to be curved.
Yeah, oh, it for sure is. Yeah. It's going to be one of those two.
So I'm guessing you want the better brand.
Let's
so
go.
You don't have
Let's.
to change it
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, please. And then one more thing, if we can find it.
Yeah.
Right on, man. Appreciate it. See ya. My buddy Kenny hooking me up. That's what I'm talking about. I forgot to buy coolant, so I'm gonna have to go back, before we can finish this project. But one trick that I learned from a buddy a while back is when you're working with hoses like this, it can be hard to get them started, especially really short ones like this. I don't have much room in there to work with. The hose is kind of rigid and doesn't bend very well. What you do is you take a utility knife and very, very carefully, you basically just soften that edge around the inside. And you do it carefully. You don't want to cut the hose and rip into it too far. But that just gives it a beveled edge to get started up over the lip. And then I'm going to use a little bit of oil down inside there to lube it, just so I can get it up and over the edge and seat it all the way down. Don't forget to put your hose clamps on before you put that last piece on, or you'll be taking it off to put those back on. Don't forget your hose clamps, like I forgot coolant. Alright, well, it looks like it goes in this direction. If we went this way, it'd be way too high. So the bend goes to the outside, like so. But I got it mostly cleaned up. At least the real nasty buildup is gone. It's definitely not clean. You wouldn't want to eat off it or anything. But I'm going to use some lubrication for the inside of this thing. Just a little bit on each end. Rub the finger around like so to get those started. Oh, and don't forget your hose clamps. I said that before and then still almost forgot them. So let's see which side. Well, that wasn't so bad. Oh, that wasn't bad at all. That wasn't bad at all. Tighten those clamps down. Start putting all the things back together. All my other hoses look awesome. I'm not worried about any of the other ones. Thank you, Kenny at O'Reilly's. He hooked me up. I mean, of course I paid for the parts, but he found what I needed. So thank you, Kenny. Next is to try to get this bracket back in there and remember where all of these bolts go. There were several of the bolts that were longer than others. These three go to the air conditioner condenser. Some of these are longer than others compared to that, so I have to try to remember which ones go in what holes. I did not do a very good job of organizing those when they came out, so here's hoping. More time lapse. Let's get this thing put back together. So here's that electrical connection I was talking about that's cracked and corroded clear down inside. Let's see if I can get that opened up a little bit more so you can see. Yep, pretty cheesy in there. But that runs underneath and behind all of the stuff. So while I have it all open, I'm going to bust it out of the conduit that it's in. Comes clear over here to this mess. And I've got to figure out how to get all that put back to correct. But I got to go to the store tonight. I need coolant. I need this electrical connection before I can get this thing even farther put together than it is. Kenny, thanks for hooking a brother up, but I'm going to have to do this without you tomorrow. I've got to do this tonight. Well, it's the next day. I just got back from Lowe's. I had to go get some electrical connectors so that I can connect that cable. The only cable that O'Reilly had the battery terminal connection on the other end, and what I need is that connection on both ends of that cable. So I had to go buy some stuff and some splice items for that fat of a cable. I don't even know what gauge that is, but it's bigger than anything I have for the house at the moment. So luckily I found what I needed at Lowe's. This is what I ended up finding. It's a splice kit, and it's actually underground, so it's completely waterproof. Has a big old heat shrink included with it. That was about 12 bucks. That's what I'm going to use. Let's get it put together. So I got it all spliced together, and that's the only connector that goes on that end, is the one that came off of the truck originally. This end at the other end just is too fat. Like, it needs to be a flat side on the other side. But this side will work fine going to the power block. I just need to get it routed, put the conduit back on, wrap some electrical tape so it'll stay in place. Once that's done, then I can get the rest of this put back into place. Whoops. Well, now it's, I think it's actually 2 days later since I videoed anything last. Is that true? No, that was yesterday. It's the next day. The days just mashed together. Time to get this done. I've got to get the serpentine belt back on, new wire routed over here. I got the conduit back on it, electrical tape wrapped around it to kind of keep it in place, etc., etc. New battery terminals put in place. I've got to get the serpentine belt back on and coolant in it, warm it up to temperature, get the thermostat to open, cycle it, make sure I get all those air bubbles out of the system, burp the system as it were. Burp, kind of like burping the baby. Fire it up, make sure I don't have any leaks, all the things. That's easy with the right tool. Sweet. Let's get some coolant in it. Make sure everything's out of the way of the belt. Nothing's rubbing or anything. Ooh. I've still got to put that clamp back in the right spot too. That would be a blowout waiting to happen, you know? Let's do that, top it off, fire it up, check for leaks. So good. I've got really good oil pressure. The alternator is charging. I was a little bit worried about that as well, just because we touched it. I don't see any leaks anywhere. Right now I've just got to get it up to temperature so that it'll open the thermostat and allow that fluid to flow all the way through the system, and that will help eliminate any air bubbles that are in the system. If you end up with air bubbles, first of all, you won't cool correctly. Second, your heater might not work as well. It won't circulate that water through your heater core. So if you're having issues like that after you've messed with coolant levels and those sorts of things, that's something to check. Check for air bubbles. Get the nose of the truck up in the air. Open, do this when the engine's cold. Open the radiator cap. Get that front side of the engine up in the air just a little bit. Get it up to temperature and let stuff cycle through, and then make sure that you keep it topped off, because when that thermostat opens, you'll hear gurgling, and then it'll actually start pulling the fluid from the radiator itself, and your radiator volume will go down. You need to make sure you're ready and start pouring in when that happens, so that you don't introduce brand new air bubbles. But that's what I'm doing right now. As soon as it gets up to full temperature, you can kind of see it's just bubbling a little bit. It's starting to heat up. I can smell, when I moved stuff around cleaning the engine and whatnot, we moved oil and debris, jeez, be right in my face, around on the engine, and I can actually smell that stuff burning off. So let's get it up to temperature, cycle it through, and then we'll close this video out as a successful repair. Warmed up to temperature, and of course it burped clear up out, made a big old mess. And then you top it off one last time, and then you put your cap on and let it run. Get up to full pressure. I'm going to take it for a drive just to get that pressure up a little bit faster, and then double check for leaks. You always want to check for leaks when you're done with this. So we are good to go. Took it for a drive, no leaks, and I didn't overheat, and the heater works, so all the things are good. Should be good to go. If you own a Gen 2 Dodge Ram, you'll want to subscribe and click the little bell so you get notified. I'm going to be doing a complete makeover on this truck, approaching the 300,000 mile mark, and it's time to just do a facelift on it. I'm going to start at the back end and come forward. Next video is going to be tail lights, that sort of thing. I'm going to be doing some rust repair and things like that. So be sure and like and subscribe. This is Troy with DIY Home and Auto, and I'll see you guys in the next video. You're fine. You're fine. You are